Thanks for pressing play. We're proudly sponsored by our good friends at Oracle NetSuite. To turbocharge the growth of your organization, check out netsuite.com/legends. And it's almost time for my new book with Heather Clancy, Niche Down. Check out nichedownbook.com and subscribe, and we'll send you the forward from Hal Elrod and keep you up to date on the launch. All right, today we hang out with the amazing Ray Wang, founder and CEO of Constellation Research. He's considered by many, certainly by me, to be the #1 technology analyst in the world. He's a good buddy. We have a fun, free-range conversation as always. We talk about diversity, startups, emotional support pets on planes. How much privacy are we willing to sacrifice for convenience? Why Alexa is actually kind of terrifying, and what are digital human rights? All right. The Ramones said, hey ho, let's go. And David Lee Roth said, you got to roll with the punches to get to what's real. And that's exactly what we try to do here on Legends and Losers. If you're a new listener, thank you so much for checking us out. You probably won't like it. It's not for everybody. We are far from the traditional interview show. And if you're a longtime listener, thank you so much. You're the reason that I and the rest of us here at Legends and Losers do this. Our longtime friend and listener, Casey McCoy, says in his wonderful iTunes review, quote, "This is my favorite and go-to hangout every week. Incredible guests speaking on things and having conversations that no one else is having." And our friend and guest on episode 174, Matt Kubler writes, quote, "The Legends and Losers podcast is quite frankly unlike any other podcast out there. Chris has a way of drawing out the best content from each guest and making them feel like they're sitting at a bar with a buddy having a drink. Love everything about this podcast." Thank you, Casey, and thank you so much, Matt. Your reviews mean the world to all of us, and we appreciate it because they let everybody know about Legends and Losers. All right, Ray Wang. This is a very smart dude. He went to medical school as a teenager. He's so smart. And you can learn all about his background at legendsandlosers.com. Just check out the show notes. And if you find out something he says interesting, or you want to chat with him, or tell him you heard him on Legends and Losers, you can also tweet him on Twitter at RWANG, and then the number 0, RWANG 0. All right, he's the founder and CEO of Constellation Research. He's the top tech analyst in the world, and he's also the author of a great book called Disrupting Digital Business, published by the Harvard Press. Here he is, my buddy, Ray Wang.
They're screwed. They're like there's an Asian male in Silicon Valley. What do you think their odds of getting into good school are?
I don't know, probably, is this racialist of me to say 100%?
No, it's actually it's reverse discrimination right now. That's one of the things people don't realize. It's
so tell
really
me
hard.
about that.
Well, if you talk to all the college counselors, right? So, I, as a good parent, I'm asking around. They're like, oh, yeah, if your kid's Asian and they're in science and math, they're kind of effed. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, oh, yeah, they don't want any more of those, right? They want people that are more diverse, more well-rounded. And I'm like, oh, okay, he's kind of screwed. He's working up against, he's got a lot to work up against.
So you don't count in the diversity quota numbers when you're Asian anymore?
I hate diversity quotas. I really do. We do our best to make sure we've got a lot of, participants, a lot of, folks, inclusion, but when you put quotas up there, it's horrible, right? It's like you forget about meritocracy. The whole valley was built on meritocracy and some good connections, of course. But the point being is when you put these, you end up with really bad results. Right, you end up with it's like, oh, we need an Asian here. We need someone that's Native American over here, and it's like it doesn't solve the problem. It's a 20, 30-year problem. When I was applying to when we were applying to colleges and med school when we were kids, right, it was like 70% male. Today it's like flipped around. I think it's like 63% females to male ratio. Right, it changes. It's a 20 to 30-year problem. You make the opportunities happen, but when you try to boom, suddenly we want to have I don't know, more female doctors, and you just you relax the quotas and the restrictions, then you get bad doctors. So you can't just do it overnight, right? They did that with air traffic controllers. Did you hear about this? This was hilarious. They wanted to have air traffic controllers that didn't have any flying experience, that didn't have any scientific background, that hadn't had a job for more than 4 years. I'm like, what kind of air traffic controllers are we going to end up with?
So what? We took the person who does the toll gate at the at the bridge and we made them an air traffic. Like what?
Pretty much. I think there's a scandal going on at the FAA right now. You can look at it. I'm like, really? Did they really do this? Right? They created a test to screen for applicants. And if they had too much experience, they told them, no, we don't want you to be here. I'm like, what? Right? If you had any flying experience, like, please don't apply. I mean,
we want the inexperienced idiot to take the job.
Well, we want to create new opportunities for new types of people to be air traffic controllers. I'm like, dude, I just want to be safe.
Yeah. Listen, I think Coco Brown from the Athena Alliance educated me on this because I was always a huge proponent of a meritocracy, and I am. But she helped me understand there's a little asterisk on that word, which I didn't sort of get, which is her point was if you set the spec in a, let's call it exclusive or non-inclusive way, then you're never going to get more diversity. No. And so if you want to have meritocracy, you got to sort of have, maybe you could call it big M meritocracy, right?
Yes, you do. I agree with that. And I think Coco's right on that. But I think it's bad to just set really restrictive quotas to actually achieve a outcome that's race-based as opposed to meritocracy-based. And I think when you do that, you end up with a lot of bad results. Right? I have a daughter, right? I want a good CEO, female CEO model right now. I can't think of no more than 3 or 4 successful Fortune 500 female CEOs. Name one.
There's certain stats that are ridiculous. I haven't seen the latest ones, but the percentage of female CEO founders in that are,
they're really bad. The numbers are really bad, right?
It's not even double digits.
It's not even double digits. No, it's not even double digits. And we've by the time someone was given the opportunity to be a female CEO, they had the worst deck. They had the worst deck of cards, right? And they may have made it worse, which didn't help, right? But they were only brought in at a point where it was so bad. So like they didn't even have a chance to be successful either, right? So we got a lot of that going on as well, right? But people want to fill that narrative. And when they try to fill the narrative without realizing like, that's a 30-year problem to get more female CEOs, more female board of directors, like more whatever category, like left-handed, I was born left-handed, but I'm not fake right-handedness, I mean, I don't know. But my point being is it's a serious issue, but you can't just say, okay, we need them right now. No, it's a 30-year problem. Right, they've got to learn the skills and work their way up.
Step up into it.
Exactly.
On the venture tech company side, my guess is we have a lot more. Just my spider sense is we have a lot more qualified, talented female founders not getting funded. So I think there is some sexism there.
I don't think it's necessarily sexism. I think it's the fact that they're not in the funding networks. I sat down with a couple heads of VCs in the last 4 weeks, and it was just funny because they were talking about the concept of privilege, right? And they said, look, the networks are completely biased. It's not fair, right? It's not fair that I was a partner at this firm who hired this person, who now this person goes to school with me, and their kids are at this place. And, the networks keep building on themselves. And he actually made me realize how unfair the networks are today. I don't know if they're less fair than they were before, but this individual had achieved the point where he could tell you that it's truly not fair. I make 3 phone calls and I get something done.
Yeah.
Right. And I just sat there and I was like completely in amazement because I had heard of this. I've never experienced this. Right. But I looked at it and said, yeah, how do we create more opportunities for people is going to be important.
Well, we recently had Catherine Minshew, the founder of the Muse. Incredible story. One of the things she shared with me, Ray, and I might be off a little on the number. The 149 is the number that sticks in my head. But if it wasn't that, it was somewhere around that. The number of VCs who told her no.
Oh, wow. Yeah, and it's just, I mean, the VCs themselves, I mean, it's kind of tough. It's gotten a little bit more commoditized, competitive. Like they used to syndicate a lot more deals, and today now they just bunch around 5 deals, right? If I don't know, take a second, like if Greylock's in, Sequoia's in, right? But Kleiner's out, right? They all partner and move around certain types of deals, and that's kind of how they work with each other. So they're de-risking their deals too. They're kind of gun shy at the moment. So it's
really
even harder.
You think there's more de-risking going on now than a year or 2 ago?
Yes, I think so.
In the old, back in the day, I love this expression. I never used to use it because I thought it was bullshit because it's meaningless, but now I love it because it's bullshit that it's meaningless. So back in the day, when I first came to Silicon Valley, my memory is virtually all the deals were syndicated, right? And there was 2 or 3 firms that would lead a Series A at plus or minus the same levels, Sequoia and Benchmark, or Benchmark and Kleiner, or Axel and...
Well, they go, Benchmark and Kleiner. They always work with each other, right?
Yeah. And, if they were putting in 10 million bucks, they each did 5 or whatever it was at the time. And then it seemed like for a while here in the 2000s, some of those firms were saying, well, we've raised these billion-dollar funds or close to it.
Got to
And
spend
so, yeah, putting 5 million to work or putting 10 million to work is really no different. We're going to give up a partner board seat to do this. So why not put more money to work? And they worked less together. So you think they're now working together more again?
They are. We see them a lot more. They're more worried about how the fund performances are. The managing partners are a lot more hands-on than they were before. I mean, there's a lot more pressure to deliver on the fund's performance. So
that's interesting. I had not picked that up. What do you think is the cause of that, Ray?
PE firms. The PE firms have come in and trashed the market, and pretty much they're competing with the PE firms on exits. So
it is interesting. I mean, those guys never really used to play, certainly in startup-oriented early stage companies.
Yeah.
The other thing is it just my spider sense, or are the PE firms also doing more sort of turnarounds and buyouts?
They're doing a ton of turnarounds and buyouts. If you take Robert Smith's Vista Fund, I mean, they've been pretty much coming in with their VSOPs, their benchmark. You should spend only 5.9% on marketing at this stage, right? People are like, what the hell is this? And the top 30 do really well, and everybody else gets screwed in the process. But the fund is performing like amazing, right? But it's taken the soul out of software. There are a couple exceptions. I mean, Marketo, it's Steve Lucas and Marketo and Ping, those have been more growth entities. But in general, I mean, they've, like, funds in general on the PE side they've stripped everything out. I mean, this quest for EBITDA is destroying the soul of companies. I mean, and any kind of long-term growth.
Say more about the quest for EBITDA.
So when we think about what's going on, like, I mean, I woke up one day, right? I'm looking at this. It's like the 5th time I've seen, like, Clay Christensen. He's up there. He's got his graphs. He's drawing something. I finally look up because, like, my phone battery died. I'm like, holy crap! He said this 5 times. He said, like, the investment, the amount of investment of profits back to innovation, R&D, stock buybacks, and all those different other categories. It used to be like 50% would go back to innovation and research, right? Well, now it's down to something like 2 or 3%, right? And basically what's happening is the shareholders, the institutional investors, are rewarding companies for keeping their growth projections, their EBITDA streams, but they're telling folks, don't go innovate, right? Because if you innovate, you're going to map up my whole model, and I won't be able to make my pension fund obligations. But the same folks are willing to give 4 or 5 people like you and me $100 million in a startup and say, go create something cool, go innovate and disrupt. Right. And that dichotomy has worsened over time. And I think that's part of the reason. And capital at this point is really free, but it's very hard to access, which is a weird problem in itself. And so we have this thing that ties up where, okay, publicly traded companies can only focus on EBITDA. We don't want them to do any types of innovation. They suck at it. So we're going to starve them. And then we're going to fund these competitors that are going to disrupt their markets, the same investors, right? We're going to fund them to disrupt their markets because we have to hedge on a high growth vehicle. And that's creating the conflict. So this is what's making it so hard for boards to figure out how to do digital transformation and be successful.
Isn't that interesting? It's funny. I love how the house sets the game up so that they always win.
Yes. And it's brutal. And so what we're thinking is there's actually a new vehicle to do this. Like, so remember, like, the 90s and 2000s, there were these trading consortiums. We'll resell energy and auto parts and all this weird stuff. But we actually think that there is a model where you can create these new alliances. And so, I don't know, let's take like a real estate company like Jones Lang LaSalle or CB Richard Ellis. Let's say they want to go like smart buildings. One of the things they could actually do is they could try to build it out themselves, create all the infrastructure to deliver on that. But a quicker way might be to say, hey, look, let's partner with, we'll put $50 million down out of our capital expenditures in a separate vehicle that we're going to partner with Google, who could put another $50 million down. And then we'll go to each one of our suppliers, like Schneider Electric or United Technologies for the elevators, or Johnson Controls for AC, whatever. It doesn't matter. They all put in $5 million, and we create a brand new venture to go out and set up smart buildings so that they're successful, right? Figure out the infrastructure, get a business model in place, broker the analytics and insight in the future. And then this then allows them to then spin it out for IPO 3 years from now. And that takes care of the problems with all the consortiums in the past. In the past, it was like, we had to be consensus driven. Like, that kind of sucks. Nobody makes a decision. We're focused on cost. Okay, well, you're not about growth, so that's not going to be anything interesting anybody wants to go to. And then, of course, it came out of OpEx instead of CapEx, so people ran out of funding. We can invert that and then actually create these new vehicles. And now Airbus and Boeing do this all the time.
So is this in the old days we used to call this off balance sheet investing? You wanted to so you didn't fuck up your EBITDA, your growth numbers, whatever other your margins, et cetera, your R&D percent spend, your marketing percent spend, all the stuff that the sort of spreadsheet wonks want to see in your publicly traded companies. We fund something off the balance sheet. We take cash that we're not really using for anything anyway. We invest in something and let it grow by itself and IPO it or buy it back or whatever. Is this the new way to do that? Is that what this is?
I think it is. We got a lot of interest. We sent that paper to probably the top cloud vendors, and they all took a look at it and said, oh my God, we got to head in this direction. I walked into a meeting where one of the heads of those cloud partnerships said, hey, we got your paper, and this SI came up to us and said they wanted to partner. So I think people are thinking about it. They're rethinking about how can we do this, because it's an access to capital issue. And then it's about how do we actually take this thing to market. And so if you can get your suppliers to each chip in $5 million, let's say you're in retail, you want to go beat the crap out of Amazon, right? You're not spending enough, right? Let's not even bother. Oh, we put like, $1 billion into our innovation fund. Like, dude, they're spending like hundreds of billions. You suck. You're not even gonna come close, right?
Yeah.
So you're going to need these kind of vehicles to be able to compete with folks that are highly capitalized, run by nerd assholes who don't have to report to the shareholders.
Run by nerd assholes. I love that. And they're invested in by essentially, you tell me if this is too jargony, right? An ecosystem of partners, so to speak, right?
Yes. The ecosystem of partners are key, right? I mean, the nerd assholes are awesome because they tell the street to go screw themselves. And everyone's like, oh, that's okay. He's growing so fast. She's growing so fast. We don't care, right? But not you're a public CEO and you can't be a nerd asshole. You're just not going to be able to be a founder nerd asshole is probably the only way anything gets done right now.
It's interesting you say that because a lot of people are sort of continuously asked the question how Amazon keeps doing what they do. And to your point, Bezos owns so much of the company. Of course, he's the founder. And when he decides, hey, we're going to put however many billion on, AWS or whatever the new initiative might be. Like I remember when they decided to do Kindle, he came out to the public markets and said, hey, all those projections we gave you, fuck it. We're, I forget what the percentages are, but like we're materially increasing our R&D spend. There's this big new things we're going to go after. We're going to tank our numbers. See ya. And the stock goes down, but he doesn't give a shit, right?
No, he's thinking long-term. He gets to think about growth, right? And that's what's missing. The public CEOs don't get that piece. And this quest for EBITDA has crushed us. It's killing jobs. I mean, it's killing jobs right there. Right. It's killing jobs. It's killing growth. It's killing innovation. And I think the good news is we've pulled out all the costs. I mean, there was a period where we were all just bloated, right? Everybody had a private jet, right? It's like, do we really need a private jet? Okay, fine. Right. So we've gotten out of that.
You only need a private jet if you're a Christian television minister. Have you heard about that? There's 2 or 3 of them I heard lately that are like, you can Google, you can check this out on YouTube. They have videos where they're like, the Lord has been talking to me and we need a Gulfstream 23 or whatever it is. And it's only going to be $57 million because we can't afford, if we have to try to get somewhere and we have to stop along the way, Jesus doesn't want us to have to change
Jesus
planes.
Doesn't wait for miracles, Chris. Come on. You know that. So no, but they can raise that in like the 24-hour telethon. We can't.
I think maybe I have to start a new, as a dudist minister, I just have to say, hey, the dude wants me to have a Gulfstream and you need to send me $27 million.
It's okay that we got the Falcon. It was at a discount. We'll be okay with the Falcon. But
So I just want to make sure I tie off on this. So if we have essentially these consortium off-balance sheet startups, you tell me if that's the right way to think about them. The thing I always saw with these types of things in the past, Ray, was they were never as successful, or often never as successful as a true venture-backed tech startup, because VCs have a startup mindset. They know how to build these companies, and the biz dev folks at a giant company who typically end up on the boards of these consortium things, have a completely different mindset, and everybody has different agendas. And so these things that are not really corporate R&D groups, they're not really startups, they're this weird Frankenstein-y thing in between. Is that being fixed? Is that different now, or how is that now?
Yeah, I don't think it's being fixed, but I think um, I think the VCs are a lot more, are doing a better job trying to manage their investments in the space. But I don't know if traditional sets of companies can access that same type of innovation VCs have. And that's why I actually think this new vehicle actually unlocks the capital, gives people the ability to actually go and actually get something done. And I think that's the most important part. And when you can pull that together, then we can break out of this EBITDA trap. Like, let's tie back to the first part that we're talking about, like consumer CMOs coming in, taking over enterprise companies, and consumer CEOs trying to take over an enterprise, right? The challenge is the board wants them to grow. So like, okay, we can't have an enterprise come do this. Let's go have someone that's had experience taking a company through, making this thing pop. And so they bring someone in and like they look good on paper, they've got the right pedigree, they've got the right connections, they look like a professional manager. But it's enterprise, right? Ultimately, in enterprise, you have to invest in R&D. Ultimately, for an enterprise software company to work, you have to understand your mission and your vision, right? It's these things that have to happen. But we're all trying to jumpstart. We're like trying to skip a step to say, hey, if we hire this consumer person who took this company public before, we'll let them go out and do this. It's like, great. It's like, but you missed the point. So this little thing that I have is just driving me nuts when I keep seeing this. People keep repeating the patterns, and the VCs and the boards are like, yeah, this person has a lot of experience, in a public company. Like, that's not very helpful right now, dudes.
Well, and the other one I always wonder about with experience is, there's people who have 20 years of experience, and then there's people who have 1 year of experience 20 times. And so I often wonder about that, and sort of the guys you bring in, the gals you bring in, if their pedigrees are perfect, there's a weird thing about that, right? Because I don't know the actual numbers, maybe you do, but there's some meaningful percentage of entrepreneurs who are very kind of misfit toys, right? They don't look good on paper, right?
No, and they're one-hit wonders. So,
well, yeah, there's that. But I just wonder about sort of these people with the pristine backgrounds versus the sort of the more scrappy types with the weird-looking resumes.
What's the narratives, right? It really depends. If I'm trying to run operations, I do want that. I want the guy that came from McKinsey, the person that trained at Stanford, the person that worked hard, right? Like I want. There's certain characteristics I'm looking for.
Yes.
I'm looking for like rebels and entrepreneurs and people that think outside of the box that do innovation. That's a very, very different set of folks. Right. I want people that lost their job, like got fired 5 times, that understood what happened. Right. That becomes one of the narratives that people say, okay, I'm going to fund that narrative. Right.
Yeah, you're right. The fit matters. I was telling this to my wife the other day. I've been on these allergy shots for a while.
Ooh.
And
is it working?
Oh my God. Well, here's how much it's working. So I'm a person who, before I started these allergy shots, if you had a dog and you invited me over to your place for dinner, I could make it for about 45 minutes. Anything longer than that, I was going to feel like shit. And I was going to feel like shit probably for 2 or 3 days, maybe a week.
Wow.
If you had cats, I would be able to make it for 10 minutes. And there's no way after 45 minutes I would have to leave. There's just no way. So that's how bad it was. So I start these shots, right? And the reason I start them, of course, is my wife gets cats. So my wife goes out, we adopt these outdoor feral cats. Well, guess what? Sooner or later, the feral cats realize it's way better to hang out in the house where there's no skunks and things trying to attack me or hump me or whatever. They're 2 girls. And so my wife now wants to have the fucking cats in the house, and they're cute as shit. So anyway, long story, way longer, I'm getting these shots, and they're working magically. And so now the 2 fucking cats, Thelma and Louise, of course, they live in the house at night. They go out and do the wild kiddish things in the day, and they come home for dinner at night, and they sleep in the house. And if you had told me that I could live in a house with 2 cats, I never would have believed it. Now, long story longer, to get back to your point, right person for right job. The allergy clinic I go to, you got to go once a week and get these shots. And there are these nurses that run the shot station or whatever they call it. And you get your shot, and you have to sit there for half an hour to make sure you
don't blow up.
Over.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? They shut at noon for lunch, and because you got to be there for half an hour, 11:30 is the last time you can get your shot. I got there once at 11:32, and she was not going to give me my shot. Now, I sweet talked my way into it, and I thought, fucking A, like, do you have to be so anal? And so I was having this conversation with my wife, and then I realized as I was talking, actually, that's exactly the person I want giving me my shot, because if they're that anal about the timing, they're probably pretty anal about my dosage, aren't they?
Oh yeah, no, you gotta get the right type for each of these things. Now, what do you do with service dogs? Like my biggest rant right now is like fake service dogs. I guess freaking everywhere. I'm like, what the hell is this? Like, I mean, you sit there and you whistle and the dog goes up. Like I watched a dog take a crap in the on the plane. I'm like, what is this?
Well, I don't go anywhere without my mental health chickens.
Brought mental health chickens on the plane?
I haven't, but the thought has crossed my mind. It's like, okay, did you hear this recently? JetBlue changed their what is it called? Mental health. What do they call these? Like
they're service animals, right?
Yeah, but they're not really. Look, if
comfort,
you're blind,
comfort. I don't know, comfort animals or something like that.
Yeah, well, get a comfort blankie, maybe. So JetBlue just updated their comfort animal policy or whatever they call it.
Look this up.
Look it up. It's funny as shit. People were bringing in, I don't know if they're mini ponies or mini horses or whatever they are. I guess there's some kind of a pony thing, horse
Special
thing.
assistance service animal travel.
Okay. Does it say anything about how big the pony's allowed to be and how soon ahead of time you have to notify JetBlue if you're going to bring your...
Oh, no. JetBlue accepts only dogs, cats, and miniature horses as emotional support animals.
Miniature horses?
Miniature horses. Who would have known?
So you can bring a fucking miniature horse on a plane if it's your mental health miniature horse.
Seriously. I don't mean to take, I think, mental health is one of the biggest issues in the country at the moment. And, it's good to have this emotional support, but you gotta be kidding me. Freaking miniature horses.
If you can't travel without your miniature horse for mental support, maybe you should just not travel. I don't want to be unsympathetic to people's mental health. No,
but here's where they stop. Here's where they have to now ban. Animals improperly cleaned and or with a foul odor. Animals who appear to be in poor health, animals with tusks, hedgehogs, ferrets, insects, rodents, snakes, spiders, sugar gliders, I have no idea what those are, reptiles, and non-household birds, farm poultry, waterfowl, game bird, and birds of prey.
So that means I can't take my chickens on the plane? Is that what that means?
No mental health chickens. I think you should file an ACLU lawsuit right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what kind of world we're in that we need these things. Although, did you see this recently? There was... we can Google this one too. There's all joking aside, there's been a material increase in suicide since 1999.
Yeah, I'm really worried about that. That the CDC just put this up today, right? Something like that.
Here it is.
Yeah. And I saw
suicide rates up 30% since 1999. There it is. Yeah, I tweeted this out. Oh, and it says only half the people who died, this is according to NBC News, had diagnosed mental conditions.
No, there's a lot of it going undiagnosed, and I think it's a lot of the pressures, the amount of change that's happening culturally. I think a lot of people haven't necessarily had good family structures or upbringing, or they haven't had to toughen out anything for a while either. So I think there's a lot of things that could happen. I've seen people snap. And people are a lot more snappy in the workplace too. So
are they? You find that?
Oh my God, yeah, and even in the airport, right? But if you have to deal with those lines, yeah. So I had this woman.
I would have thought the legalization of pot would have been helping to calm everybody down.
I thought it would too.
Maybe when you show up at the airport, they should just hand you a big bag of weed and say, "Hey, it's gonna be all right."
It smells like that at SFO all the time. Trust me. In that United line, it is like most people in that line are lit. I don't know what about 10:30. That seems to be the flight where everybody is lit. You walk in there like, oh my God, what the hell's going on?
a.m. I assume.
PM.
Oh, PM.
10:30 PM. Like they've run their token, they've handed out to the airport. I'm like, help.
I wonder, are they all from Santa Cruz?
Don't know.
So,
Don't
but
know.
here's the interesting thing about this NBC story. They say the CDC notes it's from relationship stress,
Yes.
financial trouble, and substance abuse.
Yeah.
And then
Well,
get this, it says, quote, middle-aged adults had the largest number of suicides and a particularly high increase in suicide rates. Middle-aged adults.
dude, I think that's me, man. That's you and I. Shit.
Yeah. I turned 50 recently. 50.
Congratulations, man.
Holy fuck.
50 more to
50.
go. 50 more to go.
Well, that's how I'm deciding to play it. But why do you
So
think all these middle-aged people are so depressed?
it's the dystopian views on AI, of course. No, I'm just kidding. We just did this AI survey. It's kind of funny, but people are like, "Oh my God, the robots are going to take over." Elon Musk is right.
You know, the interesting thing, Duncan Davidson from Bullpen Capital shared with me that apparently Bill Gates has suggested we should tax robots.
People want to tax poor Pepper. I mean, Pepper's just hanging out there. I actually think of a better idea would be, let's actually do something different. Let's take this data privacy problem that we have and all that stuff around data privacy, make data privacy assets, like a property right. So, our digital footprint as a property right, our DNA as a property right, all these other things that are impacting, like that people are brokering our data for becomes a property right that we get paid for. So if you want to tax the robots, you might as well go all the way to full universal basic income, and you get paid for the data. And health data is a great one, for example, because, healthcare doesn't discriminate. Cancer doesn't discriminate who you are, what race, what religion, where you are. I mean, gender. The point being is, like, get paid for the data that gets you on the way to UBI, and we can finally finalize the Star Trek roadmap. How do we get to the Star Trek economy? That's the question everyone's trying to answer. Everyone's building the product and the roadmap, but society-wise, how do we get to that Star Trek economy?
Well, it's interesting that you say that because, of course, we do sell our data. We've been selling our data for a long time without even realizing it. Right? I mean, has it been 20 years since we got Safeway cards?
Oh yeah, loyalty cards.
And what, of course, people didn't realize in the beginning is you get your Safeway card and you give them all this information about you, and that's what gets you your 3% discount, so they can know exactly what you're buying. And that's been in place for over 20 years. The thing I don't understand about it is if you think about digital rights management as a metaphor, and you tell me this may be the wrong metaphor, but the movie industry has been able to protect their assets in a way the record industry was never able to do, right? And so why isn't there a core technology today that allows me to have some kind of a DRM functionality for a certain set of data about me, whether it's my
I
health?
think it's coming.
Is it?
There's a startup that was founded that got funded a few days ago called humanity.co, HU-MANITY.co. And we've been advising them, and they got $5 million in funding to do exactly that, to actually put it on the blockchain, leverage some of that technology to help people broker their data privacy rights and treat data privacy as an asset. If it's a property right, as an asset, and that property right in itself would be then protected. And so anytime you checked into a CVS, right, they broker all your healthcare data, re-aggregate it. It's like, no, pay me for it, right? Pay me one time, pay me a lot, but that's the point, right? How do we do that? And they're really trying to decentralize these human rights for people.
Well, there's many, but one of the interesting ones on this for me is Ancestry.com, 23andme.com. My sister-in-law gave me 23andme.com for Christmas. Well, look, this may make me a Luddite, but go fuck yourself. Because first of all, we're paying for this service. Now, granted, it's not very much, but I'm paying you for me to give you an unlimited, ongoing right to do whatever you want with my personal genome.
It's you do it anonymously, like for folks like me, just to is there any ounce of Native American blood in there for college applications? Just kidding. But
and hey, maybe to the discussion earlier, maybe if there's 2% of some, you tell me, some group that is highly respected or highly required now to score high on your diversity ratings, then maybe. But
this is a freaking disaster.
We're giving them a royalty-free right to our assets.
They are. And actually, I think it's bad. But this is the same with Alexa. Who bought an Alexa? Who are the idiots that spend $50 on a device that listens into you, learns from you to sell you more crap? I mean,
I don't know. I know a lot of people who have these things, a lot of dear friends,
I have
family
none of them.
members.
I
I
only
have
have the
none of
free
them
ones that
either.
people keep giving me. I'm like, I don't want this in my house. I don't
Well,
want you listening in.
yeah,
I'm not.
I'm with you.
Why are
It's like
you? I
it
turned
listens
Siri
to
off.
everything we say. I turn Siri off too. I hate Siri.
I mean, well, Siri's not as smart as she should be. But I'm like, what the hell?
It listens to everything you say. And there was a story that came out a while ago about the patents that Google and Amazon had been filing to sort of just be able to listen whenever they want.
Yeah, and what's even worse, right? Back to your point on this data, around your health data, is right. You're all this data is being processed in China too, right? So you're basically giving the whole Chinese government your entire DNA sequence. I'm like, why would anybody do this? But no, it looks like I'm no longer German. I'm like, forget the Lederhosen, whatever that commercial is. I'm like, but there's a company that's one of our clients, Illumina, that actually does the processing and sequencers, and they're on fire. Right, that's a market that's actually doing really, really well. And so, but we're like, but why would I do this?
I don't know. I don't know. Look, I get that it would be really cool to see your DNA and this and that and the other, and your family bloodline. That's interesting. I think most people are interested in that. I'm interested in that, but there's a give to get, and the give to get is you give them a royalty-free license to do whatever they want, whenever they want with your DNA.
With your DNA, it's ridiculous. I'm like, people should stop doing this, but we're happy to trade privacy for convenience, privacy for status, privacy for value, privacy for loyalty, privacy just for a good time. I mean, people are willing to give this stuff up. So,
well, and the interesting thing, I'm sure you heard about this serial killer that got caught, right?
oh yeah, what did they end up doing with this? I got to look this up.
Yeah, it was one of the most famous serial rapists and killers in California history. I want to say
The Golden State Killer.
yeah,
That's right.
70s?
Oh yeah, he did this thing. That's right.
No, it's worse. A family member of his did this thing. Now, 23andMe and these folks say they never published this stuff, but I guess there's another website that if you get your 23andMe,
right.
it's in the story, I'm sure, and you want to load it up publicly for the world to see,
Yep.
you can voluntarily do that. So one of this serial killer's family members did this, and I guess the cops regularly, or maybe it's the FBI, I don't know who it is, monitor these public databases now. And there was some DNA left over from the 70s. Am I getting this right?
Yeah.
And that's how they found this serial killer. I don't know how old the guy is now. He's an older
72.
guy.
Joseph James DeAngelo.
Okay, so what does it say there, handsome?
Joseph James DeAngelo was taken into custody outside his home. This is April 25th. So he's the Golden State Killer. So.
Yeah, and it's because a relative of his took the DNA data, put it on a public website. The authorities monitored that website, and bada bing, bada boom. Now, look, I'm all in favor of capturing serial killers, but it does lead us to some fascinating privacy conversations, doesn't it?
It is. I think, look, we have an obligation to make sure that our privacy rights aren't trampled. There are security implications, but let's think of them as exceptions. When we pass rules that take away our privacy and our rights wholeheartedly, one by one, we have less freedom. Right. I mean, the whole point of this country was really on the pursuit of happiness, having your freedoms. And when other people impinge on them, that's when we put these rules in. But I think we've gotten to this point where we keep using exceptions to be the rule, as opposed to thinking about policies that focus on larger policies, and as opposed to not making the rules the exceptions. And that's the problem that we're in at this moment.
So 10 years from now, given that you're the most extraordinary tech analyst on planet Earth, according to somebody, where are we 10 years from now from a security, privacy, personal information perspective, right?
Well, back to that December 10th event. I mean, that may become, and I just got off the phone with the UN International Human Rights Committee, right? That may become the event that kicks that off, where we talk about data privacy. And privacy rights being an international human right, right? They came up with 30. Maybe there's a 31st right that pops up, and I hope people get smarter about that. I'm worried about countries like China with their social credit system and the digital dictatorships that are popping up, because they are using that and they may improve society, right? They definitely may improve society, but my American values get in the way of what my concept of freedom is, right? And what rights I have. And so we have to fight to make sure we still have cash. Otherwise, you're going to be tracked everywhere. We've got to fight for, our DNA. We got to fight. I mean, I sound like an EFF guy. I'm not. But,
no, but I'm with you on this. And
I give EFF money all the time, but it's just like, but we have to protect those rights. I mean, what rights does a baby in the year 2030 have, right? I mean, can they be disconnected? Are we going to start shoving things into people's heads and say you have to be connected to be part of society? I mean, I hope we don't get to that, right? But if we don't tell those stories, we don't understand those points of view. And people are like, oh, that's so great. It's so convenient. You knew that's what I wanted. Thank you. And by the way, if you think about a crime, we will eliminate you right there. Thanks.
And we have no
Minority Report. So
we have no concept today in our law, do we, of a digital human rights for you and I as Americans?
We don't, but I talked to a guy named Miguel Gamino, and he was the former CIO and CTO of both San Francisco and New York. And I think he's been looking at that for some time. I think there's folks at the UN that are looking at this for quite some time. I think we're starting to realize what those digital human rights may be. And I think it'll be important if we get those things passed. There's a lot of folks that are starting to think about this in light of how our large internet valley companies are using our social data, sometimes against us, sometimes for us. But I think that awareness has really helped catalyze that issue.
Well, and the interesting thing is, to the point on being libertarian, I don't know that we can just stand back and trust companies on this stuff. Did you hear, we had these two journalists on from Gizmodo who wrote this great story called The House That Spied on Me.
Yes.
And they set, it was a guy and a gal. They set the gal's house up with every IoT consumer device you could think of. Anyway, we had this great conversation about it. They shared this story. Now, she said this wasn't her, and, so I'll take her at her word. But apparently, there was some IoT consumer sex device company in Canada, and it was monitoring everything about your usage of whatever this device is, and doing so illegally. And they got sued, and they had to pay a fine. But this stuff starts to get very creepy very fast, right?
Oh, it was WeVibe. Yep. Silicon Republic. You look it up.
What does the headline say?
Makers of IoT sex toy WeVibe fined $3 million.
And I couldn't even figure out what is an IoT sex toy.
The smart sex toy tracked customers' usage without their consent. A class action lawsuit filed, of course, in the court in Illinois. So it was the first Internet of Things vibrator with a Bluetooth connection that could be controlled remotely.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know where the use cases are going with that.
Yeah, that means you have the device connected to your hoo-hoo and somebody else plays with it.
It's pay to play. You push a button, ching, push a button, ching. It's probably one of those kind of things.
Maybe this is the evolution of phone sex. You pay somebody on the other end of the line to press the button. Or maybe
this is Black Mirror episode 2.
I don't know. This shit's really weird. So you're trying to take a leadership position on proclaiming the need for digital human rights.
I fundamentally believe in that. I think it's really important. We have to protect those rights. People may say privacy is dead. I would say privacy is a social construct. We have to push for it. I don't think we'll have full privacy. I'm not naive in that regard, but I think we should at least protect the rights that we have. I mean, it's like simple things. Like little rights get taken away from us every day. Like I had to build a fence by my house, and thank you, City of Cupertino. You're probably hearing this, but I had to build a fence, right? And my old fence was up against the sidewalk, right? Beautiful fence up against the sidewalk. Because I built a new house, they want to take 5 feet of my land away so that they can push it back in a setback. Right. But the old fence was still there. I'd never taken it down. I never thought that I'd actually have to push back. But they want to take that. And so like those little things every day, like little rights that get taken away from you, whether it's speech, whether it's expression, whether those things are just being chipped at us at a scale that has never happened before. Right. And it gets passed into law. Someone gets upset about something. They take away your right. Right. So every time you pass a law, you're taking away a right from you, or you're taking away a freedom of something you could have done because it's no longer there. Right. And people have to think about that because this country is built on those freedoms. And if you lose every one of those over time and don't understand why you've lost them, then you've lost your entire set of freedoms and the whole point of the country, which is a pursuit of happiness.
So you connect free speech, you connect digital human rights to happiness.
I do. I mean, I don't, I'm not a fan of hate speech. No one is. I don't think that you can tell someone what they can't say. You can help them understand the implications. You can shame the crap out of them. But to legislate hate speech is just as bad as the hate speech, right? But that's an extreme view.
Because of course it's a
Who's
slippery
the arbiter?
slope. Who's the arbiter? Hate speech?
Yeah, who's the arbiter? It becomes one big animal farm. And I think that's what we're entering in. And when you look at countries like the UK, when you see like how they've become like there's a law for everything, it's completely litigious, right? I don't want to be there 50 years from now. A lot of those folks left because they're like, this is ridiculous. We have a nanny state. Everybody's afraid of hurting everybody's feelings and everyone's infringing on everyone's rights, right? But there's no sense of common sense anymore as to what that is. And so I think people are fighting that all over the place.
Yeah, we have been becoming, it's what George Carlin called the Pacification of America, right?
I remember that.
Right. It's like you grow a thick skin. Like, I don't know.
Well, this goes back to the mental health thing. People are snapping. I was literally at the airport, right? You get into the line, you can choose between 3 lines, right? So I asked the lady, like there's a whole family that's waiting in line 1. There's another person that's waiting through line 2, and there's a person hedging between line 1, 2, and 3. So I asked the woman, are you choosing line 1, line 2, or line 3? She's like, they're all the same. I'm like, actually, no, they're not. But which line would you like to be in? Because I'm in a hurry and I'd like to move to the line that you're not going to be in. So I moved to the line that she's not going to be in. And so just as about to put my stuff onto the x-ray tray, she comes in with their stuff and says, you cut in front of me. I'm like, oh my God, this woman has snapped. I'm like, what the heck is this?
And you actually talked to her and she still said you went in front of her?
Well, I think she realized that she had made the wrong decision because I had factored in how slow that TSA agent was in line 1, the number of families that were there, the number of people that actually had to take off their shoes, the number of people that actually had carry-on luggage, and I determined that line 3 was going to be faster. But if she didn't take line 3, I was going to go to line 3, right? Like I did the calculation, and she was upset that she was like maybe a couple seconds too slow in thinking about that, or by the time she got to the line, she's like, that wasn't fair. We're all in the same line. I don't know what it was. I'm just like, woman, hello, help me. This doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Now, are you what they call a global traveler now?
No, I don't sign up for TSA pre or any of that. I wait in line with everybody.
Why?
So.
I mean, you travel so much. Why didn't you do TSA pre and global
Why
traveler?
should I help people figure out who I am?
Yeah, it's funny you say that because what's that service now where you put your hands on the thing and you go
Clear.
Clear, thank you. So I signed up for that thing and I didn't think about it because I got to the airport. Things looked like a mess. The sales pitch was, hey, we could get this done in 2 seconds. You do it and it works. And then I'm sitting on the plane, I'm going, holy fuck, Lochhead. You just gave your fingerprints.
Your biometrics.
To a company. You don't even know who this, I didn't even know, is Clear a government thing? Is this a company? It turns out it's a company.
It's a company.
Yeah. And I thought, well, it must be a for-profit company. And so they're going to try to monetize me. And I just thought, holy shit, you made a 2-second decision to cut the line and you volunteered your fingerprints to these people.
You're trading privacy for convenience.
Well, and I didn't even realize it at the time. I just made the quick decision because fuck it, I had to get through the line.
Oh, yeah. It happens at the border all the time. But I just waited out. Like I waited out. Like it's the same thing at the SFO airport. Like they force you to take that picture every time you check in. By law, you don't have to do that. By law, you can just fill out the paper and not get your picture taken every time. So this is what I do with the picture. Right? That's my picture. I'm like,
wow.
Fine. Screw you. Right? I mean, but by law, all I have to do is fill out the government form to get in. But they want everyone to use the kiosks. Someone's out there measuring to see how effective the kiosks are. Are they helping flow? They're doing a time and motion study, right? And I'm like, guys, I just want to get through the friggin' line. So,
well, and I love the people who say about all this stuff, oh, you guys are nuts. I'm not doing anything wrong, so it doesn't matter if the government or these companies or whatever have all this personal information about me. And
you don't have to make it easier. I mean, that's...
Well, yeah, but my response to that is, hey, have you ever been investigated by the government? I have.
Oh,
and
wow.
It's not fun. At Mercury, when we had the stock option scandal, we all got investigated, right? And so I was, amongst many others, of course, the subject of a Securities and Exchange Commission investigation. And I knew I had done nothing wrong. And the good part about this for me is I failed grade 10 math. Nobody's going to believe I had anything to do with the accounting of stock options. So, but being stupid is a great defense. But, if you don't have that defense, it's scary. But my point is, I was somebody who didn't do anything wrong, and I was investigated by the government, and the government can put your ass in jail. They put people in jail for secure. There was a guy, I think it was the Brocade CEO, if I remember. He was in solitary confinement because of this stock option thing.
They wanted a story, right? Those are high profile, public moving kind of like lawsuits. They want a story. They want to fit the narrative. They want to make sure that, that people were punished visually, right? I mean, that's the type of abuse of power that we have to fight against. And I mean, everyone can do their part, but I also think that people should be understanding of what a bigger policy implications are before you try to pass a rule that only applied to like 0.7% of the use cases, right? That's what we're doing right now. We're at fringe use cases impeding our rights. So,
and what do you think, Ray? I mean, I won't say what I think yet, but of what's happened with net neutrality.
Okay, so I'm a little bit weird about net neutrality. So there's the political argument that this is evil. This is like an administration thing that, one party does it. There needs to be a mechanism that keeps large companies from gating access to the internet and the speeds. So that has to be there. But there also needs to be varying speeds in the internet for things like that are emergencies or national defense. And I think we're conflating all these different issues and trying to create these artificial barriers. What we really need is an entity that makes sure that large internet monopolies don't try to screw you over by saying, oh, well, you only have this speed because you only paid this much and that's it. Right, we're gonna discriminate against folks in a way in terms of access to the internet, but we also have to have emergency corridors, and we have to have like national defense corridors, and we have to have some of these other things that are built into the system. So I think that's where the argument around net neutrality got lost. But I'm not political about net neutrality. I'm just like, can you guys like stop arguing about this, because it's pretty obvious that there's only 10 to 12 players that are going to benefit from net neutrality. Let's talk about what it means for everyone else if you want net neutrality.
Yeah, I mean, look, the thing that scares me is just that somebody else can decide what I have access to, and somebody else can decide at what speed certain things can play.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
That seems terrifying. It seems I'll give you a simple example. This is the path that I see. And I'm going to throw Facebook under the bus here. So Facebook goes out and tells businesses, hey, create a Facebook page. Get all these people to like your page. And that way you can essentially market to them for free, right? We did this with Legends and Losers. Great. So we have 3,000 or 4,000 people on the page. We have a group as well, which is where we do really most of our stuff. But we threw up this page. Well, a year ago, when we first started it, if we posted something on that page, maybe 800 to 1,000 people would see it out of 3,000 or 4,000, right? Whatever the number is. Today, when we post something on our Facebook page, it's normally around 100 or less. And there's that big throbbing boost button right there. And so you look at it and you go, you fucking bastards. You said, hey, go out and do this. Every one of these people on any company's page has raised their hand and say, I like this company, I like this band, I like this artist, whatever it is. I want their marketing. It's essentially an opt-in email list, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
And now Facebook wants you to pay them to market to the people who said they want your marketing.
It's pretty ballsy.
Holy fuck. Right?
They just rip. It's like, thanks for the list. We'll take it from here.
The other nefarious behavior I think going on right now, while we're throwing people under the bus, is Google. I don't think most people realize that when you Google something, the first hunk of real estate that comes up is all inside Google's walled garden now.
Oh, it is, yeah. They've contained it.
I just Googled bakery, and the first 2/3 of the page that comes up, it looks like it's the internet, right? It's their version of Yelp. It's their map system. And if you click on, it's got, for example, here it says Melinda's gluten-free bakery.
This is location-based. Oh, wait, I am logged in. I usually log out. Shit, I am logged in.
And And you don't, at least I didn't at first, until I was like, well, what is this? Oh, there's 72 Google reviews. What is this? And then there's Google Maps sitting behind it, and so forth and so on. And the aha, of course, is Google is creating an internet walled garden by capturing the top part of the real estate on Google searches. And they do it, they make it look like you're in the internet, and you're actually not. You're
Hey,
in
this is
their
not
world.
just the first page. This is not just like the first half. This is the entire page.
Well, yeah, and then of course they control the news stories that are underneath it, and so forth. And you have to get down to Wikipedia before you start to be on the actual internet.
Wow. Well, this is the thing. I mean, people just need to be aware of this, right? I mean, when we're talking about AI, when we're talking about the dystopian world, we're talking about all these things, like we got to get smarter about this, right? Because, these AI systems, we have to demand a set of design principles. Like there's 5 that we recommend to people. One is like, it's got to be transparent, right? You got to understand like, how does this happen, right? And when it happens, right? It's got to be explainable. Right? You got to be able to say, hey, here's the correlation. Here's where the biases occurred. They also have to be reversible so that you can take the biases out if you need to. And then more importantly, there's a bunch of things like, it's got to be, it's got to be coachable, change it over time. And then of course, it's got to be human-led. Process got to begin with a human and end with a human, because if you do that, at least there's some kind of controls that the machines aren't going to kill you in your sleep. So.
Now I got to ask you, there was that company in the last, 6 months or so, the story came out where they were offering a quote opportunity for their employees to have a chip put in their hand or their finger or something, so that way they could just wave their hand and that would be their key, and they could buy their shit at the cafeteria for lunch by just waving or whatever it is. And so they embedded a chip in you to quote unquote make it easier for you to do stuff at the office.
That's asinine. I mean, guys, don't do this, people. I mean, it sounds cool, but I mean, we don't want to be tracked. Look, part of this is we've got to learn like when we put the limits on when humans are being tracked, right? It's going to happen in videos. There are drones, there's surveillance. They're going to do 27-point facial scans on people. But the point thing is, like, at some point we have to deal with the right to be disconnected is also going to be a huge right. So. Right to be disconnected and not seen as a terrorist is going to be a huge right.
Yeah, exactly. I just wanted to sit in my garden by myself.
Really? No, there was no other motive.
I didn't want to be
surveilled. To sit in the garden.
I went for a walk with my wife. That's what I did, and it's just fine. Like, yeah, it is getting weird. So this big privacy conference is obviously a huge thing for you.
Well, it's not a big privacy conference, but it's really talking about the future of internet. But privacy is going to be a big part of this, right? Because it's going to weave its way into all those conversations somehow, right? And really about creating a freer and safer internet, right? I mean, if you're in China, right? I mean, do we use the autonomous vehicle example with you last time?
I don't know. Tell me the example.
This one like autonomous vehicle runs over a dog. Autonomous vehicle runs over a dog. Do we do this one with you?
No,
right.
do it.
Okay, I'm going to offend people from China and Russia and Canada. I'm just going to be upfront here, and so don't hate me. I have
my Canadian sweatshirt on right now, so let's have it.
All right. Autonomous vehicle runs over a car in Canada. Okay, kind of cool, right? It's like, oh my God, we hit the dog. So you get a scan of the dog tag. You look for a human for help. You try to get to the dog. You try to take the dog to the nearest hospital as fast as possible. You notify the owner and you say, your dog is in this hospital. We are so sorry. How can we help? And by the way, here's where everything is. Right, that would be normal, right, in Canada. That's what you would expect.
Yes.
So that's pretty cool. Right. Autonomous vehicle runs over a dog in Russia. What dog? Erase the video. Nobody was ever here. Get rid of GPS cache.
Do you remember, not that he was Russian, but do you remember the Hogan's Heroes?
Yes.
Remember Colonel Klink?
Colonel Klink.
I see nothing. I hear nothing. I see nothing. Okay, so what dog in Russia, and then what happens in China?
Autonomous vehicle runs over a dog in China. Cost-benefit analysis tells you it's going to be a $10,000 medical bill. It's a $500 fine to run over the dog. By the way, what's for dinner?
Oh, no. Oh, that's terrible.
I get my ass kicked on that one. I love the fact that your show has no ad-sponsored revenue.
Well, actually, we do have our first sponsor. I don't know.
I hope I don't offend them.
Well, the good news is they know what podcast they sponsored, right? So it's Oracle NetSuite. Believe it or not, our first sponsor is Oracle NetSuite. like a real serious company.
Oh, shoot.
But, you know, I said to him, hey, you do understand what you're doing, right? And you do understand we're going to keep doing it, right? And they're like, yeah, we love the show. Love your audience. Go.
All right. Well, kudos to them. Kudos to them to having some level of journalistic and media integrity.
Yeah, we're going to say stuff that most people don't talk about. That's for sure.
So,
Anything else? Anything else on your mind, Ray?
You know, there is one thing. I really am worried about this mental health issue. And I'm trying to find a way that people can actually self-test themselves to know where they are. Like, are you about to break or you're not about to break? And if someone can come up with an AI that does that and does it privately so that you can self-correct, or it says, hey, tell your family that you're about to break. I think that's going to be probably one of the most useful AI inventions that we're going to see. It would reduce gun shootings, depressions, back to our suicide conversation. And I think someone should issue a challenge for that. Like, it should be like an X Prize for something like this. So
that's interesting. I think that's probably a good idea.
I am worried. People are cracking around me. Like, not just like I just see it, right? It just look at the commute in, right? People are just like, that's some crazy ass driving these days.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I think that's true. People are crazy on the road. I know I get aggro on the road in a way that I shouldn't. Not always, but
well, come on, the freaking Prius going 55 in the left lane, dude. Like, you know, it's nice. We're glad you're environmental. I mean, but we want to get somewhere, dude. It's like you're like 40 car lengths away.
I'll tell you, if I was king of the world, we see this on, you know, we have this highway over the hill here, of course, over the Santa Cruz Mountains, Highway 17, right? And it's a 2-lane highway, as you well know, and it's almost always, if there's a backlog of like 16 fucking cars, there's some asshole in a Prius going 40 miles an hour with all these people behind them. And you know, there's trucks and stuff in the right-hand lane, so you can't pass them.
No, they're kind. They mean well. I mean, they're following the rules. I mean, it's great. They're following the speed limit, but like, well, the rest of us are happy to take the hit on the speed limit because we're in a hurry.
Yeah, no, they don't understand the main rule, which is the fastest car has the right of way. Get out. It's not a cruising lane. And I'll tell you, if I was king of the world, there would be a $25,000 fine and 6 months in jail next to a very aggressive, horrible person for doing this. Like this is, and you know, of course, you spent a lot of time in Europe. You can't do this in Germany. You can't do this in Portugal. You can't do this in Italy. Like,
no, I'm going 120 in the second lane and I'm getting like stares. People are like honking. They're flashing because they're going 150. It's like, get off the freaking lane, you tourist, which was me.
No, listen, and I was, you know, I had this happen in the last few days. There was this guy sitting there, left-hand lane, same thing. So look, I'm on his bumper. I drive a 662 horsepower Mustang. I don't drive this thing because I like to go slowly, right? And he finally pulls over and he gives me the finger. I'm like, you're the guy driving 50 in the passing lane. Yeah.
There's a blog post I read that got a lot of views. It's like etiquette on driving on 280. Someone can look it up. It was just me. I was just like so pissed. Like seriously.
I didn't see that. I gotta read that.
I'll send it to you. But the point being is like, you know, like honestly, like I want to chase your car. If you're driving faster than me, I want you to pass me. I want you to lead. Right?
I get out of the way.
I'm going to follow you.
You're going to take the ticket. I'm out of the way.
I'm out of the way. I mean, it's as simple as that. Don't be upset that people are driving faster. Be happy. I think you get home earlier. You know, right? And it's not the speed that kills. It's the freaking slow car that you have to swerve around.
Yes, yes. My old buddy, God rest his soul, Mike Homer, who is, as you might remember, the CMO at Netscape and was at Apple, and just had one of the legendary careers and was an amazing guy. Anyway, he used to not just speed, but he would ride in the diamond lane by himself with nobody else in the car all the time. And his attitude was, listen, my time is more valuable than the $200 ticket or whatever it was at the time. And so I'm just going to do what I need to do to get where I need to go. And if they pull me over, they pull me over. It's just a tax I'm going to pay. And that's just going to be
true. It's a CBA. It's cost benefit analysis. I do the same for a while. I was like $271. If I miss the meeting, it's a $100,000 deal. $271. I don't care. I'll expense it.
Now, just to get back to mental health for a quick sec, every time one of these mass killings happens, I find myself crying and screaming and punching. punching bags, by the way. I mean boxing training, not punching any person. And the mantra in my head is almost always, Ray, what the fuck is wrong with men? Do you have this same thought?
There are a couple things, and it seems like it is just guys that are doing that, and that's kind of scary. So I would say that, there's been an overemphasis and neglect on boys' education. So, and I think
they're falling behind girls, right? So I've started to collect data on quote,
there is data
is
on this, and we've gone this things like, oh, we need to help girls, we need to STEM. So we overcompensated, and I think at this point boys are being neglected. Right. And they're being told that they can't be boys. And I mean, I'm not saying they should be sexual harassers or they should be rude in class, but boys can't be boys. And I think there is research now that's starting to come about to say that maybe this overemphasis on one gender has impacted the other. And we're going to take a look at it. But I think it's important, like, for all of us to understand that, that starts early, and that's a 30-year trend, right? That's going to keep coming, right? These are generational shifts when we make decisions about how we emphasize one group versus another. And you'll see those, right? I mean, the other one was white males, right? White males in rural areas are massively neglected, right? So maybe if you see a rise on mental health or gun shootings in certain areas, maybe there's a correlation to that. Maybe there isn't, don't know, right? It could be like stockbrokers, right? Stockbrokers at some point were like all going postal, right? But I think we have to look at the trends that way. And that's, hopefully we have better data to look at that.
Well, young men are opting out of society. That's sort of what the data says. Here's an interesting point. Since the turn of the century, the participation rate of 16 to 24-year-olds with just a high school degree, participation rate being in the economy, has fallen 10 points to about 70%. So what that means is 30%. For those without even a high school degree, it's fallen 20 points to 30%. Wow. And so young men are opting out of the job economy, and, quote, for the first time since at least the 1940s, young men are more likely to be living with their parents than romantic partners. In 2014, 35% of young men between 18 and 34 lived with their parents, compared to just 28% who lived with a spouse.
Wow. That's not good.
Yeah, and guess what they're doing? They're playing video games. This is from The Economist. The hours that they are not working have been replaced almost one for one with leisure time. 75% of this new leisure time, that is to say what they're not doing, falls into one category: video games. The average low-skilled unemployed man in this group plays video games on average 12 and sometimes upwards of 30 hours a week.
I mean, it's going to get worse with augmented reality and mixed reality. We're not going to know where we are, right? We're going to want to get lost. I mean, that's going to be new. Like, remember, like in Star Trek, it's the hollow addiction. I think we've got the same issues coming up. And I think it's really our ability to, we're not developing individuals so that they're confident, that they know who they are, that they have an idea of what they don't know. I mean, there's that growing process, right? And it's going to, I think it's only going to get worse when we try to shortcut the way we educate folks, we put people in the society. So it's a big issue. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting because there's so much power and value in the technology, and yet the technology is a big reason that so many of us are lonely. And I think mental health, if you look at the opioid crisis, look, I'm no doctor, of course, but there's got to be a correlation between unhappiness and the misuse of drugs.
Oh, there was. These are all escapes. These are all escapes from reality that we've either legalized or have had access to, that people are willing to take because reality is painful. It's hard, right? People are in lots of hurt and they're looking for a way to escape, and sometimes, has other consequences. So I think that, along with this mental health thing that we're talking about earlier, I mean, they're all coming together. And so it's a really question of can we give people that hope? Give people that perception of lives that they want to lead, the things that they want to accomplish. It goes back. I mean, honestly, I think the founding fathers were brilliant. It's the pursuit of happiness, right? How do you make sure that people have the conditions to go pursue that? And then when you think about Roddenberry and Star Trek, it's how do we get to the Star Trek economy where you go after your interests? You're not working for money's sake, right? You're going after the things that truly interest you, along the way. And that's where society ends up. So don't know.
Well, I hope you're right that that's going to make a difference. The mental health picture in our country, the increase of suicide, men opting out of society, this stuff is absolutely terrifying to me.
I don't know. Maybe that's the next big Silicon Valley challenge, using AI to solve mental health. So, but hey, I got to run.
All right, let's go.
This is freaking awesome. This is what I love. It's all raw. It's real. That's what makes the show amazing. So,
well, I'm glad to have you back, Ray. Want to have you on all the time. And, thank you so much for another legendary discussion.
Hey, thanks a lot, man. This has been awesome.
See you soon, brother. Hoo-wee! If you know somebody who would love this episode with Ray, why not email it to them right now? And we would love you just a little bit extra if you shared this episode on social media. We know you've been sharing the show a lot. We really appreciate it, and it helps us grow. The show's growing great, and thank you so much. We'd also like you to check out the new spin-off of Legends and Losers, 6 Minutes of Legendary, on Apple Podcasts or wherever else you enjoy podcasts. We've had incredible success with 6 Minutes right out of the chute. We have consistently been in the top 200 podcasts on all of iTunes, Apple Podcasts, and in the top 50 of business podcasts. So kind of blown away with that success right out of the chute. Thank you so much for checking out 6 Minutes of Legendary, sharing 6 Minutes of Legendary, reviewing 6 Minutes of Legendary, and just getting your legendary on with us. Now, speaking about getting your legendary on, NetSuite wants you to get your legendary on and get to growing. One of the main reasons companies fail is inability to scale and to manage and support growth. I've seen more companies than I can count who had a great category opportunity and were unable to manage extreme growth. NetSuite is the platform to take you from the garage to the IPO and beyond. NetSuite has a deep and wide set of capabilities to help you manage every aspect of your business in the cloud. And NetSuite is surprisingly cost effective. And our good friends are offering our listeners a 60-minute growth review with an expert in your field. Check out legendsandlosers.com. Excuse me. Well, check that out too. But check out netsuite.com/legends. And when you go there, you'll be able to set up a time to meet with an expert in your industry to talk about opportunities and barriers to growth. You'll learn how to acquire new customers, increase profits, and finally get real visibility into your cash flow. So check out netsuite.com/legends. All right. We would like to thank Constellation Research, Ray Wang's company. Check them out at constellationr.com. The amazing book by our friend and guest on episode 91, Hal Elrod, The Miracle Morning. Check it out, changing hundreds of thousands of lives all around the world. And we'll be making an announcement soon, but I will be at Hal and John Berghoff's Best Life Ever conference in San Diego in December this year, 2018. Verve Coffee, the leader in West Coast artisan coffee, the official coffee of Legends and Losers in Santa Cruz, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Tokyo, and always at vervecoffee.com. Check out Niche Down, how to become legendary by being different. If you have a podcast, you should learn how to be able to read and talk at the same time. Check out nichedownbook.com, subscribe, and we will send you the foreword written by the aforementioned amazing Hal Elrod. OneLifeFullyLive.org. We're the nonprofit helping you dream, plan, and live your best life. Check us out, OneLifeFullyLive.org. The new Jordan Harbinger Show with our friend and guest on episode 135. He's one of the top podcasters on the planet for a reason. Check out the new Jordan Harbinger Show. Our good friends at 70millionjobs.com. We all need a second chance. That's right. Ex-cons make great, deeply committed employees. Check out 70millionjobs.com. com. Interview Valet, podcast interview marketing. Get your leading thoughts on some podcasts today. Check out interviewvalet.com. Another podcast that I love, Stop Riding the Pine, with the amazing Jamie J. Check it out. And our good friends at Médecins Sans Frontières, aka Doctors Without Borders. You make a contribution, and these folks will make a difference in some of the toughest places on planet Earth. Check out doctorswithoutborders.org. All right, we need to remind you that this oddcast is the sole property of the Legends and Losers Oddcast Network, and we would love you just a little bit extra if you shared the shit out of it. We must remind you that all rights do remain disturbed, and we must warn you that this oddcast is clearly produced in a studio that does contain nuts. Don't forget to teach your kids their digital rights. There's no such thing as a participation award. Tom Waits was right. Why don't you, after you're done this podcast, put down your smartphone and go for a surf. Listen to John Lennon. Don't be lame. Get out of the passing lane. Don't forget to call your mom and dad. Buy pasture-raised, free-range eggs only. Hey, man, that suit is you. And don't forget, there's no stopping the cretins from hopping. Thank you, Dandy Candy. I love you, Mom and Dad. And hey, Colin, this oddcast really does tie the room together, doesn't it? Today, our deepest apologies go to Marcus Rust, CEO of Roseacre Farms. Sorry, Marky, we just ran out of time for you. That's it, my friends. Thank you so much for investing part of your life with us here on Legends and Losers, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.